Hi! If you're in the market for a corded vacuum cleaner, then it can be a really difficult decision because there are so many models to choose from. So what I've done is I've come up with 10 things to consider before buying a corded vacuum cleaner. So let's have a look. Just before I start, all I'd normally say is please subscribe to my channel. What I do is I'll talk about different products around the house, and also I'll cover quite a few buying guides like this one. And I've been asked to mention some of my avid followers. These are Tommy, Ollie, Owine, Big Dave, Luke, and of course Thomas. Thanks very much, lads. So back to the vacuums, and if any of you have been following my channel for a while, you know that I've been quite an advocate of the cordless vacuum cleaners. I've followed Dyson through almost all of their product launches, some of the Bosch Athlete models when that very first came out. We were there to get the product sold, and over the years we have sold thousands of them. So over the years I've always been a huge fan of the cordless concept, but the corded vacuum cleaners have still got a place in the market, and it is something that people are still asking for. Some people are not convinced by the cordless concept. Either things like runtime isn't long enough, or they're worried that it's going to run out before they can clean the room or clean the house. So for that reason, a lot of people are still asking for the corded vacuums. So although this list is in no particular order, I'd consider the first two probably the most important, and these are probably the first two things that people look at. The first one is, do you want an upright cleaner or a cylinder cleaner? And what I mean by that is, do you want an upright like this, or a cylinder cleaner like the classic Henry? With an upright cleaner, clearly the main advantage is you're not having to bend down so much. With a lot of these, they do come with things like accessories. Especially with the Henry, you do get quite a long pole that does make it quite easy to use, but you are still having to bend down quite a bit to use it. Now, some people prefer the upright concept because it just tends to be a little bit easier. Clearly the main downside is they're a bit heavier than, say, the cylinder cleaners. Also, the cylinder cleaners, if you are, say, elderly and if you do struggle with the weight of vacuums, then pulling the Henry along, because on these models you do have wheels on the bottom, so it makes it nice and easy to pull around, then that could be an ideal solution for you. So there's not really an ideal one to say that, say, upright is better or cylinder is better. It's really down to your personal circumstances. So that's number one on the list, the upright or cylinder. So number two on the list, and again, like the upright or cylinder, this is something that I would consider to be really important, and that's whether you want a bagless or bagged cleaner. And what I mean by that is, do you want it bagless, like these two models, the Shark and the Dyson, or do you want a bag within the vacuum? I'll just show you. So this is one that comes with the Henry cleaner. Now, the bagged concept has been around for decades now. People have been using vacuum cleaner bags for a long time. With these ones, these are basically throwaway bags. So once you've used it, then you have to throw it away. There are some vacuums where people either try to cut the bottom off to try and reuse them. You can find that by doing that, it's not ideal. First of all, the filtration will be affected because part of the filtration of any bagged vacuum cleaner is within the bag. So people have different mindsets as to whether they prefer bagged or bagless. Majority of the market's gone to bagless, but there are still some people that prefer the bag, because what you can do is you can just take this out, go and throw it away, and then pop a fresh one in there, and that keeps the vacuum a lot cleaner. Whereas with a bagless one, then you do have to clean the vacuums themselves after you've emptied the bin, and on its own that can be a little bit of a messy affair. Ideally do it outside, because sometimes if you've got quite a lot of dust in there, then it can come back at you. So as with the upright or cylinder argument, there's not really an ideal solution as to whether to go for bagged or bagless. The majority of the market still tends to go for bagless, just really because it's a lot easier and it saves you having to buy the bags. But that's a decision that you need to make. Number three on the list is the bin or bag capacity, and also how easy are they to empty. And what I mean by capacity is how much dirt can you actually get into the bin or the bag. And on this Shark vacuum, this is a popular one that we sell in the corded range. The capacity on this one is around 0.83 litres. Just to give you an idea, comparing to some of the cordless models, The most popular Dyson product that we sell, the capacity on that bin is 0.54 litres, so only half a litre. So the main advantage of having a bigger bin is that you don't have to empty it so often. With most manufacturers, you do have an indicator on the side that's telling you when to empty it. And it is important to try and stick with these, because you can find if you go any higher than that, then the suction can be compromised. You will find that with the design of the Henry, because on this one then you've actually got a much bigger capacity compared to some of the other upright vacuums. On this one you've got around 6 litres capacity within the bag, so it is a lot bigger, but clearly the design of it is completely different. But when it comes to actually emptying the bins, then I'd always recommend having a look before you buy, because for some people it might be a little bit awkward. But when you've got the bin off, then all you'd normally do is press the button here and then it drops down. So as I mentioned earlier, when you empty these, just make sure you do it in a well ventilated space, ideally outside. The last thing you want to be doing is to do this inside, have all the dirt and dust come out, say if you're doing it in your kitchen, and then if you've got a load of dust come out, then it sort of defeats the object of you doing your vacuuming. So that's on the Shark one, and the Dyson is a similar concept. You just press the red button on the top there, and then press the red button again, and what will happen is that the lid will open. Clearly, because this is a brand new model and there's no weight of dirt in there, then it doesn't open on its own. But that it's a similar concept to the Shark. So that's number 3 on the list: check the bin capacity and see how easy it is to empty. Now number 4 on the list is how long is the cord on the vacuum cleaner. It's something I try and mention to everyone when buying a corded vacuum, because there's nothing worse than buying a corded vacuum cleaner with a short lead and then having to switch between different main sockets when you're doing your vacuuming. So on a lot of these vacuums, you will find that the length of the leads are really good. These are, I suppose, some of the more popular ones that we do, but they are towards the, I suppose, the higher end of the market. So you find that the length of the leads are between 8 and 10 metres. Some vacuums go a lot longer, some of them are around 15 metres. But it's something I always recommend to just have a look, because you can find, especially on some of the cheap vacuum cleaners, that some of the lengths of the mains leads are only about 5 or 6 metres, which isn't very long. Also, the way that you actually store the cord on the vacuum, you will find on a lot of these. So on the Shark, for example, I know this hasn't been taken off and actually unwrapped, but on here you wrap it around. Just stand back a little bit so you can see it. So you wrap it around here, and on the Dyson it is a similar concept. So this just goes around the back, so it's at the bottom here and then it loops around the top here. So it is quite easy to do. Most manufacturers have got rid of things like the cord rewind. On a lot of cylinder vacuum cleaners years ago, you used to have the button where you just press it and it retracts it to within the vacuum cleaner. Now the idea was really good, because it just saved having the cable on the outside of the vacuum. The main downside is that reliability on some of these units was so poor. We've sold thousands of cylinder cleaners over the years, and that's normally the first thing that tends to go. And clearly when you've got nowhere to store the cable, then that's almost it. Now number 5 on the list is the power of the vacuum. Now this is something that I suppose I wanted to try and cover, because the common misconception is that the higher the power, the greater the suction or the pickup ability. Now to an extent that is correct, but what you can find is that sometimes some brands like Dyson and Shark might not have the biggest power. You will find that the pickup ability is better on these vacuums compared to some of the cheap vacuums, because of the type of head that they use, or just the way they're designed. So that's really something to cover. So number 5 in the list is the power to look at. So ideally go for something that's pretty high, say 700 watts. Regulations keep changing, so you will find that over the years that powers have reduced. Years and years ago we used to have the, say, 2000 watt vacuum cleaners. We sold thousands of the bagged Panasonic vacuums. They did really well for us. That ended up being around 1800 to 2000 watts. And compare that to the power on these are less than half now, but the pickup ability on these will be a lot better than those old vacuums. Now number 6 on the list is what tools and accessories does the vacuum come with? Now there are a huge range of tools that are available. These are just some of the tools available on one of the Dyson vacuums. But these are just really some things to look out for. The first one is the crevice tool. So this is pretty standard on most vacuums. On this particular model it does have a brush attached as well. Things like the brushes are really good. If you're doing things like delicate areas, say if you vacuum in your kitchen, say doing around a worktop, then that kind of brush is quite good. You've got other accessories like this. This is a flexible tool. So this is designed that you can pop other tools in here, and then you can put. So it just makes life a little bit easier, especially if you're vacuuming down, say, the side of a sofa, or if you're doing in your car, down the side of your car seat, then that's a really good option. Next one to look out for, you've got things like the turbo brush. This one is a little bit different. This is like a tangled tool, but the mini turbo brush is something I always recommend looking out for. You will find that when it comes to using the hose on the vacuum, then just make sure that you have one of these, the mini turbo brush, because what you'll find is when you're doing up the stairs, then that's quite a good one to look at. And then you've got other accessories, things like this. This is an upholstery tool. But as far as the range of accessories, there's a huge range available. These are just some of the common tools that are included with quite a few vacuum cleaners. But that's number 6 on the list, to have a look to see which tools are included. Number 7 on the list is the weight of the vacuum cleaner. Now for some people this can be a really important factor, especially if you are elderly or if you struggle with the weight of vacuum cleaners, then trying to choose one that is lightweight could be a really important factor. You will find that a lot of corded vacuum cleaners are heavier than cordless ones, but it's something to really bear in mind that things like the weight on these could be around 7 or 8 kilograms compared to some of the cordless ones that are around 2 or 3. Also, just have a look to see how easy they are to carry. You'll find that most vacuum cleaners have a handle on top or on the side, but just have a look to see how easy they are. Clearly on this one it's a really good position to have it in, so it makes it a lot easier if you've got to carry it upstairs. And on the Dyson one it's a similar concept. You've got the handle on the front there, so it just makes it quite easy when you have to move it around. Number 8 is the filtration on the vacuum cleaner. Now for some people they are probably not too fussed on what filters it's got. For some people it's more of a pain having to clean them, but for other people a really good filtration on the vacuum can make a huge difference for them. We do find that some customers who, say if you've got asthma or dust allergies, then having a good filtration within the vacuum is a very important factor. So that's something to have a look out for. Have a look for things like hospital class filters or HEPA filters. There's a whole range of different classes of filters. Also, when it comes to the filtration, see how easy they are to maintain. And what I mean by that is see if you can wash them or whether you just have to replace them. I normally recommend going for some that you can at least wash. There's nothing worse than buying a vacuum than having to just change the filters every time. Quite a few vacuums you can wash the filters now, but you will find after several washes, if you've been washing them for say a year or 18 months, then after that sort of period of time, then the actual filter itself can start not to perform as well, so you'll need to replace it anyway. Now number 9 is how easy are they to clean the stairs? And the reason I mention this one, because this is something that a lot of people talk about when we're talking about corded vacuums and cordless ones. How easy are they to clean the stairs? Because corded vacuums on the whole are heavier than quite a few of the cordless ones, then you'll find that by having tools on board or things to make life easier can be a huge help. And on this one, on the Shark, you've got something called lift away. And what this does is this gives you the ability to take the vacuum up the stairs. Just get the mains lead, it's a little bit difficult here, but you can actually take parts of the vacuum up and vacuum like that. So things like this can make a huge difference, and what it does with this is it just removes the main brush head at the bottom, and that takes a good chunk of the weight away, so that when it comes to vacuuming on the stairs, then it just makes life a lot easier. Now number 10 on the list, and I suppose I've sort of cheated, I've come up with 2 different things. It's the warranty and the price. First of all, the warranty on the vacuums is very important. What this means is if you do have a fault within the manufacturer's warranty period, then that should be covered. On quite a few vacuums, especially as you get to this level, then they tend to vary between 2 and 5 years. Have a look out for promotional guarantees. They're not always on, but if you can find a vacuum with, say, a 5-year guarantee, then that can be really good. Quite a few other manufacturers will just have a standard 1-year guarantee. Something to bear in mind is that with things like warranties, that it doesn't cover things like consumables, so it wouldn't cover things like filters or bags. Also, something else to think about is that the warranty doesn't cover other things like blockages. We do get a lot of people ring us up saying that their vacuum has just lost suction. So first of all, we're asking people to check the filters. Some people are saying, where's the filter? They've never even cleaned the filter, so that's the first thing to consider. But things like that, and also, as I mentioned, the blockages, you need to have a look, perhaps even take some of it apart just to make sure that there's no blockage within the vacuum, because things like that won't be covered under the warranty, and you may get charged by the manufacturer if they need to come out. And also, the second part of number 10 is the price on the vacuum. Now, for a lot of people, that's going to be really high up in the list. If you are just after a really basic vacuum cleaner, let's say £50 or £60, then you're not really going to be looking into this end of the market, because most of these vacuums are normally between £200 and £300. But the price on the vacuums clearly will vary a huge amount, depending on a lot of things I've just talked about with these. We'd normally try and recommend sticking with popular brand names, like some of these guys. You will find that the things like pickupability will be better, also build quality will be better as well. Hopefully reliability will be better, and clearly that's why some of these manufacturers are willing to put longer guarantees on. So I hope you enjoyed this quick video on the 10 things to consider before buying a corded vacuum cleaner. Please give us a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, leave any comments below. I'd always ask for comments, whether it's good or bad, about the video. I'm sure there might be things that I have forgotten. There's loads of things to think about when you're buying a vacuum, but really these 10 things I suppose are the 10 most common things that we talk about when we're in a showroom or through our online chats with customers. Thanks for watching.